Welcome back to the DGAF1 podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the new BWT Alpine F1 team car launch, the A524. Mate, you've watched the video? You've seen the video? What do you think?
I think that WEC car looks better. It was an interesting decision to release them both at the same time. I also found it interesting that how long they spent emphasizing the fact that, this is definitely a new car. You're not looking at last year's car. This is definitely not last year's car. Because it practically is. They look almost identical.
Are you sure? Well, this is the thing. The first thing that came to my mind when they started saying, look, this is a brand new car and this is not just last year's car with a new livery. I just thought they were digging out Williams. I thought they were going, cheeky dig at Williams, another cheeky dig at Williams.
Maybe they were, but I think it's just because it looks so similar to last year's car that they had to.
I mean, my thoughts looking at it, the first thing I thought was it looks fast. And I know that is something that we've started discussing all of these launches. And the first thing I said was, how can a car look fast? Like, it can look fast, but that doesn't mean it is. To me, it's not the best looking car we've seen of the four so far. To me, that's still a stake. But I think it's the fastest looking car, I think. It's got very deep side pods. Did last year's one have those? Because they looked very... I was going to say Ferrari, but Ferrari didn't do it. Aston Martin, those very deep grooved side pods with the grills on the top. They've gone for that. Now, did Alpine have that last year?
Yeah, so I looked back at the A523 as it was. I found some photos of it at Abu Dhabi, and it did. It doesn't look. Like I say, it really doesn't look dramatically different from last year, which is why I think they were emphasizing so much that it is. There's a little bit of like the shroud around the exhaust that does look different, and those sort of fences that they have along the edge of the floor look different. But the rest of the car looks very similar to me, down to even like that weirdly like flat, uncontoured nose thing that they've got.
Well, that was one of the things I thought. It's got a very wide nose on it. Compared to the other cars we've seen so far, they've gone for this really bulky nose. And it's like, surely that's less aerodynamic, I would have thought. More of anything in the air is going to slow you down, surely.
Yeah, I thought that as well. Generally, I can imagine you wouldn't want something so flat hitting the air. But that's what they've gone for. They had it last year as well. Last year, the nose was sort of weirdly flat as well.
But it'd be interesting to know why. And as you say, if they had that last year, they keep emphasizing it's a new car. They kept talking about that the A523 didn't deliver on what they wanted, and that they'd been working on this car from a concept from 2022, but working on the actual thing from the first few months of 2023. If they had all that time and they knew that the A523 wasn't producing for them, wouldn't you have made it look a little bit different to try a few different things aerodynamically? I mean, what I'm starting to think is when they say it's a new car front to back except for the steering wheel, is it more the internals, more the underneath? I mean, he said they've essentially got a body under the body that they can manage and all of this stuff. Maybe it's less about the aerodynamics and more about the internals.
It could be that. I mean, the body under the body is basically just him trying to explain engineering talk to people who aren't engineers. He's just talking about all of the ducts and how all the cooling works inside the car and where all the air goes once it goes in and how it leaves again. But it doesn't look that different. Like, I'm sure it is. I'm sure there are differences. But even the Haas, which you initially thought there weren't any differences, I could immediately spot some. There were immediately some differences. There's no difference in the concept of what they're doing. Like the Stake car is is sort of a different concept to what they did last year. The side pods look significantly different. Side pods on these look like an evolution of what they had last year. One problem that Alpine did have last year was they were very draggy. Apparently what they're doing with the rear wing is going to help that. I don't think we would have seen whatever it is that's going to help that about the rear wing. I don't think we would have seen it in this launch. We're probably going to see it when they turn up to a low downforce track. But yeah, and something else I really didn't like about this car is why is it black? Paint your fucking cars. To paraphrase Christian Horner, paint your fucking car. Fuck's sake! Like honestly, even the blue and the pink don't look that different. They look practically the same.
I have a note right in front of me that says pink livery looks the same but tints of pink. Like when they pulled the cover off, I thought, it's going to be this bright pink thing. They've done it before. They've gone all out pink, and no, it was the same black open carbon car with little pink bits. And I went, it was a disappointment. It was almost as disappointing as Rachel's 3-2-1 countdown to reveal the pink livery, which, bless her, really didn't go the way she wanted, did it? She was like, let's do a 3-2-1. We're going to count down, and then they're going to reveal the car. Ready? 3, 2, what? And then she goes, go on then. like no one wanted to get involved. Which just, kind of sets the whole pink livery off.
This is going to sound really bad. We may have to cut this because it's quite, a dark joke. But did you hear that story about that? I think it's the Sky Sports presenter Jenny Gow who had a stroke. At various points, I thought Rachel was having one live. I don't know what a delivery is. It's just a livery. She kept stumbling over words. I was just confused about the presenting.
Well, all the presenters so far we've had 3 presenters, an F1 pundit and 2 Sky Sports pundits, and Will seem very scripted. I mean, they're all scripted. Obviously, they're all scripted, but Will seem very scripted. Naomi. Is Naomi? I thought she was good, but as you said, she needs an MCing course. and then Rachel, stumbling over. I mean, who are we to pick apart what they're doing? They've got the millions of dollars and the Sky Sports contract, so power to them, absolutely. But yeah, it was interesting. But going back to the hypercar for a second. I agree. I think it looks better than the Formula One car. I think maybe it's because it has things like, headlights and rear lights and stuff, but they were able to do more with the reveal, like having the LED changing, the color changing headlights and everything. I love the rear lights are in the shape of the Alpine logo on that car.
Oh, that was excellent.
That's a lovely touch, right? What disappointed me was, like, you're trying to do the hypercar first because of the two, it's people have come to see the F1 car get revealed. That's why we're all watching the video, right? So that's got to be even more impressive. But then they used the same music to launch both. I thought, like, at least, I know I'm getting really picky, but like at least use a different song or a different melody or whatever to reveal the car. The other car, make it different. I know it's the same team, but make it stand out. And I was far more impressed with the launch of the hypercar. What I did think was cool, though, was the way that they got the sheets off the cars without you noticing. That really impressed me. Like all the others, and I know it's really hard to do, but all the others you can see people fumbling about, or they just get the drivers to unveil it. Whereas this, it like the lights went out, the lights came on, and it was there, and you're looking at it going, "How the hell did they do that? Like a magic trick." So yeah, it was a nice touch. I liked that.
Yeah, I think they have like cloth pulling machines that you can get for those sorts of applications. That's probably what they used. I agree. I think the launch of their WEC car was better. I think it looks better. I do find it a weird decision though, because so it was the Renault team, and then it became the Alpine team because the Alpine is the like sporty brand of Renault. Fine. And they have all of these ambitions to get back to the front of the grid with the Formula One team. But what they've decided to do in order to achieve that is split their resource of people with experience in motorsports and go and enter another series for the first time, instead of focusing, do they really care about getting the Formula One team to the front? Because last year they fired practically the entire top echelon of the Formula One team, and now the guy who is the team principal of Alpine F1 is also in charge of Alpine itself, which is a very weird decision. I
was thinking that, is he going to be running? Is he going to be running the whole of Alpine as a company whilst, from the pit wall? How is that going to work? Do you think he'll be a team principal who spends the least amount of time on the... Well, they're never on the pit... Well, Christian Horner is. I know Toto likes to be in the garage most of the time. But what I'm saying is trackside. Do you think he'll be potentially the team principal that spends the least amount of time trackside of all of them through the season? Because... he's having to run this other car company.
Well, yeah, I would imagine so. Because he's also he's part of the corporate entity that is Alpine, as well as the Formula One team. And I don't think that's true anywhere else. I mean, it kind of is at Sauber that will become Audi, but Andreas Seidel is the CEO of the thing that will become Audi. But he's not purporting to be the team principal at Sauber. He's not. There's no implication that he's going to turn up to the races.
The only other kind of comparison I can see is obviously Toto Wolff owns a massive portion of the Mercedes Formula One team, but he's a part owner of the team that he is the principal of. He's not managing. He's not like a part owner of, say, like Mercedes, the car manufacturer, and running that whole show, or running a part of that, like their AMG division and the Mercedes F1 team. But that's the closest thing.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like if, it'll be like if, what's that Ferrari guy's name? The one that looks ridiculously young but is in charge of all of Ferrari. I can't remember his name. It would be like if he decided he was going to be team principal instead. It just doesn't. That's not how that works. It's a bizarre decision, and the whole thing felt very corporate because there was lots of thank you to the CEO, thank you to the COO, thank you to the CFO. Is it a board meeting or is it a car launch?
I thought all the drivers sitting. The three drivers sitting down, waiting to come on stage in their uniforms or their race suits. I say uniforms because of what I'm about to say next. They look like they're all sitting, in the rows at primary school when there's an assembly and there's an awards ceremony and everyone's sitting in the rows. They look like that, like they were school kids waiting to go up and collect their certificate.
Yeah, it did look like that. It was a little bit odd. Also, apparently that's the first time they've seen the car. I'm like, really?
Yeah, but again, we were saying about Bottas looked like he hadn't seen the car before with Stake. Now that was never like mentioned or talked about during the launch. It was with Alpine, but maybe these drivers don't see the cars quite as much as we think.
Maybe not. Actually, yeah, because I think I remember in Drive to Survive, I think I remember in the 2022 season of someone asking George if he'd seen his car. No, was it the 2023 one? Whichever one was his first one at Mercedes.
2022.
Was someone asked George if he'd seen his car, and he went, "No, what have they done?"
And then he said, "When I saw this for the first time, I thought that looks fast." And then there's that meme of it cuts to Verstappen and Ricciardo falling down laughing. Yeah. Which is harsh, but yeah, fair enough.
I mean, actually, to be fair, I think I remember that year the car they unveiled didn't have the zero side pods. Zero side pods turned up during testing.
I'd have to go back and rewatch it, to be fair. It's a year ago or so. I can't quite remember. There was a lot of talk about cooling, optimizing cooling. It seemed like all the CTO could talk about was, this is a different car and we've optimized the cooling. Maybe so. I'm starting to think, was that one of their biggest problems? I mean, he said we're going to optimize the exhaust by not cooling them, because if you cool them, it takes away power from the crank. Now, and there was so much focus around cooling, as I say, that I'm thinking maybe that was the main problem they found with the A523.
It might be. I mean, they're obviously the only team that run Renault engines, and I mean, if you build anything mechanical in France, it's bound to overheat.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I just thought it was very interesting that like trying to pick things out, and that was one of the things that kept coming up in what he was talking about was optimizing the cooling. So maybe there'll be something there. It'd be interesting to see what happens, and if will that just bring them up to scratch, or will that make them better on the hotter circuits, like Abu Dhabi and stuff like that? It'd be interesting to see. Have they optimized it to peak levels better than the other teams, or have they just come up to standard?
So I think I remember some of the commentators talking about this last year, that the Renault engine is down on power relative to Ferrari, Mercedes, and Honda, Red Bull powertrains. So if they can cool their engines better, they can probably get more power out of them as a result, which will hopefully mean that they'll be able to compete a little bit better. I mean, to be fair to Alpine, last year they did manage to snatch 2 podiums out of it. They weren't completely awful, but their ambition seems to be greater than that. But given, like, I haven't seen the car on track yet, but given that it honestly does look so similar to last year, I think they do need to prepare to be a little bit humble, as they kept saying.
Well, they want to take the fight back to McLaren, don't they? I think that's going to be their goal.
So they claim. But McLaren, if they keep going on obviously we haven't seen their car reveal for this year yet, but if they keep going on the trajectory they were on towards the end of last year, I think that might be out of Alpine's reach.
You think? Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I mean, are McLaren going to be winning constant podiums and fighting for the championship? I mean, we don't know. We haven't seen the cars yet. We don't know what's going to happen, but I'm already starting to ask questions. Where's this going to go? Okay, Alpine get better. They want to take it to McLaren, but McLaren's getting better. They want to take it to Ferrari. Ferrari want to take it to Merc. Merc want the championship again. I mean, talking about team principals, we've got one team principal that we love who has had the boot prior to this podcast starting, and another one who we don't know. At the moment, he hasn't had the boot, but something could happen there. And I mean, can you imagine if that happened? Like, we're not speculating on anything. We're not saying anything's going to happen. But just imagine the person we're talking about gets the boot. Where everyone can infer who we're talking about. How much would that change that team, and how much do you think that would change the dynamic of Formula One? I mean, that to me would be as big as Lewis going to Ferrari. Yeah,
it would be. Well, I mean, yeah, there's stuff going on that, I think for legal reasons we should probably just not mention explicitly. But I'm sure anyone who's bothering to listen to this knows what we're talking about. It would be bizarre if that happened. I don't know how they'd replace him, who they'd replace him with, what that team would be like without him, because he's just always been there. He's literally a part of the furniture. It would be weird.
It's definitely a story that will follow. Everyone will be following. And whichever way it goes, maybe we'll feel more comfortable talking about it in a bit more detail. At the moment, no one knows what's going on. But, I mean, the season a car hasn't even touched track yet. And we've had Lewis to Ferrari, and then this other story. Prior to that, Gunther Steiner got the boot, right? Right at the beginning of this year, end of last year.
Yeah, Toto and Susie had that thing as well.
Yeah, Toto and Susie had that whole thing, which every team had to come out and say that they hadn't made a complaint or anything, and they stand with their fellow team or whatever. Every single... it was as if the FIA or Formula One or whoever gave every team the same scripts, because every single statement looked the same, read the same. So it did look very generic lawyer speak. But all those things have happened so far. We've had, I don't know if I can take much more, and we haven't even started yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, is this start as it means to go on, do you think, for the season? Like, could we have the most exciting season on our hands since 2021?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, I mean, silly seasons, maybe the whole thing would just be silly season. But just a very silly season.
We still don't know who's going to Mercedes. I mean, how long are they going to drag that out? I still think Albon's in for a shoe, though. Also,
did you know that Mick raced for Alpine in WEC? Because I didn't.
No. I thought he's been sitting in the back of the Mercedes garage for the last year.
I thought that's what he was doing. But yeah, he's in the Alpine WEC team.
So is he on loan? Because obviously they're a Renault team. It's not like he's on loan to another Mercedes team in a different sport. Is it because is it because it's a different sport? You can just go do what he wants.
It might be. I don't follow WEC closely enough to know whether or not Mercedes have a team, but I don't think they do.
No idea. Literally no idea. But it would be interesting to know if it's a different sport. You can't touch me. I'm going to go do this. Because I mean, if Lando decided he wanted to start playing golf, McLaren aren't going to say you have to work with these sponsors of this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a different sport, and yeah, okay, the WEC is closer to it's motorsport, so it's closer, and it's under the FIA, so it's closer again. I'm being a bit, facetious or whatever the word is with my by saying golf, but maybe they can't touch him. Maybe you can just say, look, I'm going to plan it on my off days, and I'm going hypercar racing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a racer. I do wonder whether or not that WEC car is as easy to split in half as the Haas was.
Hey, if anyone can do it, Mick can do it. All right? I have faith in him. He's done it twice to an F1 car. WEC, piece of cake. I want to chant him, split the car.
You know what's amazing is that those hypercars are smaller than the Formula One cars.
Are they?
Yeah.
They don't look it. They look huge.
Yeah, they're smaller than the Formula One cars. I think people think they're much bigger than they are. Like, if you put like a WEC hypercar, or even the old LMP1s, if you put one of those next to like a regular sports car, they're tiny. They look really big because they're sort of weirdly proportioned, and that dome in the middle looks like it fits two people, but it really doesn't.
I mean, we've literally just today seen a WEC car right next to a Formula One car, and they look the same size.
They do, but the footprint of the Formula One car, I think, is bigger.
Wow. I mean, the footprint of the Formula One cars post-2022 has been massive anyway.
Oh, yeah, they're basically minibuses. They're like 5 meters long, 2 meters wide.
I mean, that wing is something like off a 737. It's ridiculous. It looks great, but it is mad. If you watch old episodes of Drive to Survive and you look at the rear wings and stuff on those cars and you just go, oh my God, I forgot how drastic a change it was.
Yeah, I still remember in 2009 when the front wings of the cars, I think, used to have to sit inside the footprint of the car, so like inside the lateral wheelbase. And then in 2009 they changed all the rules so that the front wings were as wide as the car, and then the rear wings were really like tall and skinny. And I remember them just looking really weird. There were all sorts of like snowplow memes and stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you look back at like Lewis's McLaren from 2008 and stuff, and you look at the wing, and the wings look tiny. Front wing look like cute little baby wings. You get used to this stuff. You look at the rear wing on the W07 Mercedes from years ago. Was it? That thing it's a little box on the back of the car. that opens and closes. That's all it is. Cute little box. And they got bigger and bigger and bigger and a little bit wider. And then all of a sudden, these big, lovely, like things shaped like a cathedral stuck on the back of every car. I don't know why, but when those cars were first introduced in 2022, I don't know where I heard this, and whoever told it to me was wrong, or wherever I heard it was obviously wrong. But I heard that there was going to be no DRS, that those big new wings were not going to have DRS. Obviously they do, but did you ever hear about that? Any talk about that?
I don't think I did. I don't remember there being any talk of getting rid of DRS. I think I've heard some talk of post 2026 maybe getting rid of DRS and also tire blankets and stuff, making the cars smaller, making them produce even less weight than they do now, so that cars can still follow each other and overtake without the need for DRS. But I never heard about it for this generation of cars.
Well, I know for a fact that the tire blankets are going because they wouldn't shut up about it last season. And it's going to be interesting how that's going to affect things. A car's going to need... it's going to take cars longer to warm up their tyres. So if you get red flagged, and you put a new set of tyres on, is it, or rather if you pit... I mean, I'm trying to come up with scenarios in my head that haven't happened yet, but I think it's going to change strategy. Will it change it for the better? Will it change it for the worse? I don't know. We're going to find out. But I think there will be a big change when the tyre blankets are removed. I think it'll do more than people maybe realise to the sport. I wouldn't want DRS to go, though. I like it. I think it's... it's the Super Mario boost button of the Formula One world. It needs to stay.
I actually saw a thing. There's a new karting track opening in London, and they've somehow got permission from Formula One to brand it, and you can use DRS on the straights in a kart. So presumably it is literally the Super Mario boost button, because there's no aerodynamics on one of those karts.
So but they do know that DRS stands for something, right? You can't just say DRS means more power. Like, it stands for drag reduction system. Like, are they just hoping that the average person that goes there will go, oh, DRS, cool, it sounds cool, I'll go faster, and won't have a clue what it means? Because any Formula One fan will just go, well, that's not DRS. Have you been to one of the Formula One simulator arcades yet? I think there's one in London and one in Birmingham. Yeah,
I've been to the London one. I sort of enjoyed it, but by sort of enjoyed it, I mean the two things I didn't enjoy about it. One, the game that you're playing it on, I think it's either Assetto Corsa or it's one of these other simulators. It's not the Formula One game, which means that I don't know how accurately the performance of the cars is replicated like it is in the Formula One games. The physics of it is a little bit different than it is in the Formula One games as well. And then the other thing I don't like, which is very much a me problem, is that because I'm 6'4", 19 stone, I'm a little bit too wide for the seats, and I'm a little bit too tall for the seats as well, which just makes it a little bit annoying to drive for any longer than 5 minutes.
I went because you get 3 races. By the way, it's not an advert. We're not getting paid at all. I wish we were. If you want to give us free sessions on the simulators, we'd love that. But you get 3 races? Is it for the price of whatever the price is? Because me and a mate of mine went, and we in cars next to each other, and then you get to they put you into the same race. You have to scan it on your phone and all this stuff. And I liked the way that it's the first time I'd ever driven with one of the actual steering wheels. Although not all of the buttons work, like you could change gear and stuff, but maybe it's a lot to ask. But it would have been nice if a few more of the buttons did actual things in the game. But I did like the way the seat moved and the vibration and all of that, and it was good fun. But I agree, the physics of it isn't the same as... as like the Xbox game, for instance. Like you can very quickly get used to the physics of the car, and you can feel the downforce starting to work, and you can feel the grip on the game. Whereas on the simulator, it did feel. Well,
it's very floaty in the arcade. It's very hard to properly. I think because I play on the PS4 and. I find it, even with just a little controller, I still find it quite easy to like find where the limit is, and I found it impossible on at the arcade. Having said that, like it was fun. It's the only time, like it was the only time I've ever played with like an actual steering wheel and pedals. It's a good little bit of fun. But it's if anything, it's aside from the fact that you're sitting in something that moves and there is a steering wheel and pedals, feels less like a simulation than the actual EA game.
Okay, cool. You got anything else on the Alpine A524 launch?
No, I think the name should be shorter, and I think they should paint the fucking car. But other than that, no.
There you go. All Formula One teams, keep Tin happy. Paint your fucking car. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.